Last time, Monolith made a class where you got more damage every time you landed a critical hit, and gave the class a nearly perfect critical hit rate. It broke the game pretty hard. So what did Monolith do this time? The exact same thing. Fans of huge swords rejoice because today we will be discussing one of the best classes in the game, and easily one of the strongest damage dealers, Incursor. And in this video we will be discussing Incursor, talking about its strengths and weaknesses, and seeing how to use it most effectively. While the equipment I may use in this video is based on late game, you can still use weaker versions of what I use and have plenty of success, and there will be no story spoilers in the video. As always, if you enjoy these guides and want to learn more about how to play Xenoblade 3, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to help me out. Let's get into it. I don't think Taion has gotten much love in these guides, since the one class I used for him so far was the somewhat disappointing Tactician, and he happens to be the S rank for Incursor, so I'm going to use him here. Now, technically his attack stat is a bit lower than some other characters, but it's so extremely minor I honestly don't think it makes too much of a difference. One thing you will instantly notice about this class is the 35% critical hit rate. This is with no accessories or skills boosting it either. That is the base crit rate for the class. Many of the skills are based on critical hits as well, so I want to go ahead and discuss those. Adroit Blade will boost your damage by 8% every time you land a critical hit, up to a maximum of 150%. This is the defining skill for the kit, and one of the reasons it has such strong damage. Critical hits are very easy to come by with the class, so you can stack up this damage boost very quickly with minimal risk to yourself, since you can get it from auto attacks or weaker arts. Having such an easy to fulfill condition to get such a large damage boost is very nice, and makes the class hurt a lot very quickly into most fights. It's an even better skill when you consider Eye for weak points, which will boost your critical hit rate by 2% of its value all the way to 100%. So after 50 attacks, whether auto attacks or arts, you have basically a 70% critical hit rate. 70% is extremely high in most situations already, but it gets even better. Vigilance will boost the critical hit rate of auto attacks by 150%, so at the very start of battle you have about an 87.5% chance to critical hit with every auto attack without any additional critical hit modifiers. This makes it extremely easy to stack Adroit Blade all the way with minimal effort, and actually gives the class some okay damage with auto attacks, though arts will still hit significantly harder. The final skill is boosting critical hit rate by 100% when attacking a launched enemy. If you have Eye for weak points stacked up, every single attack you do on a launched enemy is a guaranteed critical hit. Every auto attack will also be a guaranteed critical hit after about 20 attacks. And your base critical hit rate on arts in every other situation can reach 70%. As such, this class will be critting all the time with no extra investment, which is really strong because of the power of critical hits in this game. This also makes Critical Strike a no-brainer as a master skill option, since it will increase critical damage by 50%. I don't know if I've necessarily explained this perfectly, but critical hits normally do 25% more damage. Increasing the damage bonus will make critical hits do 75% more damage. This is really strong since critical hits are a separate multiplier from other damage boosts, which can make you hit some really powerful damage numbers. What I'm trying to say is that this kit has an insane critical hit rate and will hit incredibly hard almost all the time, especially against launched enemies. Speaking of which, if you want to take maximum advantage of how you can destroy launched enemies, Universal Annihilation is a great skill to have to get a 150% damage boost to toppled and launched enemies, ensuring you can hit as hard as possible and also give impressive chain attack damage. Ultimate Qigong rounds out the skill set by reducing enemy defense a very significant amount. Once again, the description is wrong and it reduces defense by 50 percentage points, and not just 50%. Meaning if an enemy had a defense stat of 20, this will make that negative 30 because it can go into negative numbers, instead of just 10%, making you hit significantly harder and should be considered a staple ability on basically any physical class you'd like to do damage with. Now, on hard mode or in fights where you want to be really safe, or in fights where you don't have a reliable way to combo enemies, Covert Attack can be a great option over Universal Annihilation to ensure you can spam all your high damage without ever having to worry about the enemy aggroing you when combined with a different gem. Fighting Prowess can also be considered for a basically universal 50% damage boost as well in all situations. All in all, the skill set of this kit works very well together to make it hit as hard as possible. The arts that this kit has include Reversal Edge, an art with a very low damage ratio, but also a very short cooldown that will give you basically a guaranteed critical hit against an enemy performing arts. Personally, I don't like this art because it's just such a really weak art in general, and the class isn't exactly stuck with awful cooldowns on its other important damaging arts, and the crit rate bonus doesn't really matter too much for this class. Glitter Stream is just a break art with a fairly low power multiplier as well. The cooldown of 7 isn't the worst, but honestly I think you are better off finding break from other sources because you don't really want to waste this class's damage with this, nor running a break brooch accessory over another option. Seriously, just use an ogre with brooch and the Yumsmith break art, really easy to get breaks on anything then. Now this does lose a positional, but I really don't think it matters too much since you can get one from Master Arts if really needed, and honestly, you don't really need a great talent art with the kit to do very well. Not like its default talent art is that great anyway. Sidewinder is an art that has a much better damage ratio than Reversal Edge, and only takes one more cancel to get the cooldown. It is also a basically guaranteed critical hit when attacking from behind the enemy, and helps fill the talent gauge, making it a really nice art option to have. Aerial Slash is your highest damage ratio art, and while 400 isn't exactly amazing, it's still pretty solid, and the art itself has a decent cooldown of 5, along with granting a high critical hit rate to the art, and giving you the ability to evade attacks. This is great if you pull aggro and need an emergency way to evade a dangerous attack, and it's great to do a lot of damage in general. Considering this art has a high critical hit rate, Sidewinder does too when attacking from behind, and auto attacks basically auto crit, is there any time this class doesn't crit? Not really. Mystic Vision rounds out the kit, and if there are ever any times where it might be in doubt, this will give you another 25% critical hit rate and another 25% damage bonus on all of your critical hits. This is a great stance, and you can very easily have 100% uptime with it since the cooldown of 9 should be way shorter than the actual duration. Very much worth running and can easily ensure you hit even harder. This class's talent art is Supreme Sword, which has a roll action recharge of 3 and will boost damage when attacking launched enemies. Now this is okay as a talent art if you have a way to launch, but it's nothing that is 100% necessary. You could also consider running the Smash talent art as well to give a very easy way to smash the enemy for more damage, but that is a bit outclassed by the fusion art option that Agnes classes do not have access to. There aren't too many other talent arts that would be amazing for the class, so you can probably just stick with the default for some extra damage on launched enemies because it's still pretty strong. Soaring Tempest is one of my master arts because this gives me a way to launch myself and instantly cancel into other arts for maximum damage uptime on launched enemies. I like running this a lot because of that. I also have Hidden Thorn paired with Aerial Slash to get the strongest art pairing possible for potential chain attacks, and Bleed can be strong as well. Now the cooldown of this art is fairly long, so you could consider something like Fatal Bite, which has a much shorter cooldown and gives another positional that could allow you to hit even harder from the side if you don't have any huge added damage totals, or don't think the Bleed will work, and this is likely also a better option for non-chain attacking setups since you can use it way more often. Cross Impact grants Power Charge. Thank you, Flash Fencer, for the amazing art because Power Charge is amazing and can make your next art hit really hard. I feel like this is a very standard master art for all Agnes attacker classes just because it is really just that good. For gem setup, I am obviously running Analyze Weakness to get another critical hit damage bonus of 70 percentage points. Now, if you add my 50% bonus from skill, the standard 25% from all critical hits, the 25% from my stance, and now this 70%, all of my critical hits, which are basically guaranteed of course, are going to do 170% extra damage. As you can imagine, that can make this class extremely powerful. Disperse Bloodlust is just a standard skill for safety to reduce aggro generated when using an art by 45%. It can work very well with Covert Attack to make sure you never take aggro since you don't have a smash art that's going to just ruin that anyway, so I think this is a pretty good option for the kit because of that. You can run the standard attack boost of 75, but it's such a low percentage of your total attack at this point that it's basically less than a 5% possible damage boost, so I don't really think it is that beneficial, but it is something you want to run if you want to go for max damage. Empowered Combo is just going to increase cancel damage boost by 75%. This is another independent multiplier that increases all art damage by 75% as long as you cancel into it. Doesn't work in chain attacks, but it's still extremely powerful outside of chain attacks, and is going to allow you to hit extremely hard. For my accessories, I am obviously running Saturni Rings to boost my attack as much as possible. 40% is pretty huge, gives a massive boost to all of my damage, so in that sense, it is pretty much a requirement. Warped White Brooch will ignore 30% of enemies' physical defense. Same effect as Ultimate Qigong, this just stacks with it and reduces enemy defense even further, allowing you to hit really, really hard. It works much better as a damage increase than pretty much any other option as well, so it's pretty much always worth running. Crushing Weapon Belt just gives me a boost to a specific enemy type, Aquatic Life in this case for the enemy I've chosen to fight. You can run any one of these damage boosts to a specific enemy type and it'll work just as well. And if the enemy does not have an accessory that boosts the damage to that type, consider running Lune Rings just for the boost of fusion arts, or if you are just lazy and don't want to constantly be swapping out accessories depending on what you are fighting. I think this is a really good setup for the kit. There could be some other things you might want to consider, but this is going to give you the strongest damage boost possible and make the weapon hit as hard as possible, so I think this is going to be a really good setup for the weapon. Now with all that done, let's take a look at how to use Incursor practically and just see what kind of crazy damage it can do. So the first fight I'm doing is actually going to be on normal mode, should be pretty quickly, just because I want to show off chain attack damage and hard mode kind of gimps it a little bit too much. And then the second fight will be a fight against the same enemy on hard mode at an even higher level, because why not? I'm not going to show that entire fight, but I'll show about a 3-minute sample of it so the video doesn't go on too long and how you can kind of approach the fight in a pretty similar way. Now in this fight I do have Universal Annihilation equipped, in the hard mode fight I put Covert Attack on just to be extra safe. since I wasn't going to be able to chain attack until way later into the fight. But typically, this enemy I don't think is really too difficult. I just hope the visual clarity isn't like terrible because of his tail, because of how big he is and being in the water. But you should still be able to see the damage numbers and what I'm doing. So I was kind of just going around the enemy, stacking up Mystic Vision a little bit. Or, not Mystic Vision, my additive a little bit, and then using Mystic Vision to give myself more damage, give myself more crit rate. And as you may have been able to notice, I hit over 700,000 with 2 hits of Infusion Art there, which is really powerful, and even my auto attacks were hitting for over 25,000. So you can do a lot of damage, especially to launch enemies with this current setup. Even if you take aggro, if you're on normal mode, you can probably get combo locks pretty easily, and you can also keep aerial slash up just in case you need it, like I'm doing here, just for the evasion to give myself a bit of a buffer if things go wrong. But luckily, Senna's really good, and we can get all these combos going. I also have another Hidden Thorn Aerial Slash charged up, but I want to use my... right there, and I just did over 1 million damage with that, if you just saw, with both hits. Then I did another 400,000 on the other 2 hits I just did there to get Power Charge back. 1 million damage on both hits. That was pretty impressive outside of a chain attack. So now I'm going to go for a break, so I'm going to launch back in a chain attack here. Unfortunately, Senna does not break round 1, so I'm just going to kind of use my most powerful art with Tyon here, just to build up his TP a little bit so I can get some extra damage with him later. Now, he no longer has Power Charge, so I do want to use one of my healers to get him Power Charge back. And then I will use Ashura to finish the round, so we get all 3 of those characters back after that. And since Tyon's the round finisher, he'll get the Power Charge on his round finisher and do a lot of damage from that, even though it's not on the launch. And we'll also be able to lower enemy physical defense by 50 percentage points for the rest of the chain attack, so we'll be able to hit even harder from this point onward, which is really useful, I think. So on this reactivation, I have Ashura's Order, which is always really good. Guaranteed power charge to everyone, even if I didn't already have it. And also gives me a really big damage ratio of increase of 200. So Senna does get the break here. I'm able to topple. It's really nice. I think I use Mio to topple, and then I'm going to use Tyon to both launch and apply his stance. So I'll get extra critical damage on the next round of the chain attack, Mystic Vision and Soaring Tempest here. And then I can also reapply Power Charge and get even more damage after that. Yeah, there's a lot of really funny things you can do here. I do get a little bit lucky here since I didn't reach 150 multiplier that time. And I get Tyon back. Doesn't really matter too much. I would have gotten him back in the very last round anyway, where he could have done plenty of damage if needed. Since I did get him back this round, I just go ahead and pick Uni here. This will get the Ouroboros around early, so I'm not going to get as much damage as I could get from the damage ratio and stuff like that, but it doesn't really matter. I just basically just go, I'm just going to give you Power Charge back, and then I'm just going to use my move. Over 4 million damage with 2 hits each. Really, really strong, with only a 729% damage ratio. And the chain attack's not even over, technically. If the Ouroboros round, I'll have an even higher multiplier. Not too much higher, but even higher one nonetheless. And I'll still have Mystic Vision active. So I can do a lot with that. You can probably hit damage cap with both hits of Hidden Thorn and Aerial Slash. Took me a while to think of that for some reason. If you have the right setup here, I'm going to give Power Charge back, and then we're going to use the move again, because why not? So if I do apply Bleed, that'll do a lot of damage as well. Over 6 million with one attack, over 7 million with another. Now, Bleed's a DOT. I don't know if I actually apply it. I don't see it, so I probably didn't. Doesn't really matter too much, though. It also helps to get the Tyon finisher, because it'll do a lot of damage with that as well. Not as much as the art damage, of course, because that for some reason that's extremely powerful, but still pretty good. Not a bad chain attack, not too hard, as you might imagine. Pretty easy fight. Now, hard mode is a little bit more difficult. I do replace Universal Annihilation with Covert Attack here. As you can see, it is hard mode. I did prove that by showing the tombstones, so for people who think I don't play on the highest difficulties when I can, sometimes I do. So, there you go. Regardless, though, I do have Covert Attack on, like I said. This will make it basically so I can keep attacking no matter what, without having to worry about anything here. I do play a little bit safe at the very, very start, because I have aggro automatically being the lead of the party. But after that, it's not too hard to not have that. I go ahead and use Sidewinder here, even though it's not from the back, just to get some extra attacks off. And then I'm going to run to the back of him in just a little bit here. Right now I'm at the front, because I'm going to try to get my damage off on this launch if I can. Hidden Thorn was unfortunately not up yet, but I do get some decent damage anyway. And I'm still not being aggro, so that's a good thing. And now I'm going to slowly work my way behind. I'm going to try to dash and auto-attack at the same time when I have moments to do that. And Thing about hard mode is combos last for less time, so your topples and your launches are going to last for less time as well. So that is one thing to keep in mind. I should have replaced Hidden Thorn with Fatal Bite since I'm not really planning on chain attack or showing off chain attack in this part. And I'm not even going to do the full fight because it'll probably take way too long since I'm not like perfectly set up for like the most optimal thing possible here. Just trying to show off Incursor more specifically. So now I'm behind the enemy so I can start getting some Sidewinders in. I wasn't really too worried about Supreme Sword this entire time, but I'm able to get my Hidden Thorn Cross Impact combo to over 600,000 with both hits, and I still don't have aggro from that, so that's really good. No bleed, unfortunately. Super bosses and basically every important enemy resists every debuff possible. They really need to fix that. I'll keep complaining about it until they do. And I'm just going to use Sidewinder whenever I have it up to try to get my Supreme Sword up, since it's only cooldown of 4 cancels or auto attacks, which is really easy. It's already back up again. I'm able to keep Mystic Vision up for most of the fight whenever I want it, which is really beneficial. I'm going to go ahead and do that again here, and then get this extra damage out, and able to use the Cross Impact combo into the Aerial / Hidden Thorn combo, and do a ton of damage there as well. Already almost at half health, and this fight is going to be basically more of the same from this point onward. Just kind of taking advantage of the combos, getting my damage off on the launches, and basically just doing as much as I can with that. All in all, though, the class is extremely strong. I didn't even have Universal Annihilation in this, and I was still hitting some really impressive art damage on the launch. And even outside of launches, if you want to just spam arts even more actively, you can get a ton of damage. I don't think you would actually take aggro too much with the setup I'm currently running with Covert Attack and the Disperse Bloodlust. But I am just kind of tempering it a little bit to try to get as much damage as possible in certain moments. But even then, it was still a really easy way to get a bunch of damage off without being like too worried about aggro or anything. So I think that is okay used for setups for attackers that just do a ton of damage. I think it is okay to run aggro reduction in this game, just because if you do take aggro and die, you lose your additive. And it's not really like previous games where even if you took aggro, it didn't really matter because you could heal yourself or do a bunch of other things to make it not matter. In this game, dying can be very, very easy, so in some ways, reducing your chance to die can be a good thing. So I do applaud Monolith for making it a bit more balanced in terms of what effects you might want to run in this game. I think that is going to cover it for this guide. I don't really have much else to say, so I hope you guys enjoyed watching and have enjoyed seeing how this kit works. And hopefully you enjoy using it yourself, because I think it's one of the most fun classes in the game. I really like big damage numbers. I really like crit-based classes. And I hope you guys will look forward to my future guides also. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the video, like and comment, support me any other way you can. And have a wonderful and blessed day. I'll see you back here hopefully pretty soon.